Hello, this is the Game Philosopher, and one of my favorite topics will be discussed today. Alright, so we discuss gaming, philosophy, manga, art, poetry, philosophy. Yeah, I already said that. Everything you can imagine. So long as it's high culture and it's related to gaming or anime or frankly movies or even YouTube. I do it all. So today we're talking about, and this is actually a request from one of the viewers, the relation of philosophy. Well, he wanted to know philosophy and myth, but instead I'm going to talk about philosophy and belief and the nature of faith and all that which is related to the art of reasoning and the spirituality aspects and stuff. So, talking about this stuff, for one, when we look at the ancient philosophers, it's very fascinating that, a lot of times they would for sure argue whether or not the soul is immortal, sometimes whether or not there is a God, although that didn't really happen until much later, when pretty much the atheists were finally arriving on the scene. Yes, that's right, Epicurus and Seneca and all those guys who people frequently quote as atheists, they actually, a lot of times, they talked about God or gods. And so there's no way they could have been an atheist. And they talked about these god or gods in a way which is unorthodox, such as Epicurus and his belief in the mortal soul, that the soul is destroyed when the body is destroyed. Or Seneca, he has a belief in the goodness and the divinity that is within us all. And of course he also believed in the deity too. It's this very interesting mix of pantheism and panentheism that we see with Seneca. Now, talking about the subject. So, looking at the ancient philosophers, like, for example, Cicero. Yeah, no, not the clown Cicero. We're talking about Cicero, the Roman orator, not the murderous clown from Skyrim. So, he would say that either in his essay against the fear of death, or on the hatred of death, one of the things he wanted to establish is either that the soul is immortal, which is his position, or that the soul is destroyed at death, and either way, you should not fear death because there's no cause for unhappiness if you no longer exist, or in the case of the soul being immortal, there's a cause for happiness if you live on while your body has perished, which is a very good point. Now, you also have many talks of piety throughout all of ancient philosophy, and I'm not going to talk about that here. In fact, when I do revive the modern Platonicism, I will talk about piety as it relates to Platonicism. And so, the thing is, the very aim of philosophy, in my opinion, is not necessarily that it's to dispel myths, but rather, philosophy doesn't expel it at all, but it makes it more rational. And with more rationality, it actually improves things. And if it's a completely bad belief, it throws it away. Now we can get into whether or not a philosopher should be theist, deist, atheist, whatever. That's a subject for another video because that's the philosophy of religion. And yes, we're talking a little bit on the religious side of philosophy, but today I'm talking more about the core of what philosophy does and its relation to the divine. So, Marcus Aurelius was able to define the philosophy as the art of reason. Now, that's a part of it. You have also not only the logic and the epistemology and all the stuff the analytic school that likes, and a lot of other philosophy schools. In fact, they actually, almost every school of thought in philosophy has ethics, some form of metaphysic. Then you have some form of logic training. So, yeah, essentially, philosophy does deal with the, I'm just going to use it as a proper academic term, myth. It does have some relation to it, but at the same time, we have to examine these ideas. And when we examine these ideas, we have to think of the implication of these ideas, and when you look at the implication that you can rationally think about what happens is that you can see whether or not this is a good idea, and if it's a good idea, you can go ahead with it. But if it's a bad idea, maybe it might be your understanding of it. So you have to question your understanding, and if it's your understanding is wrong, you correct your understanding. But if the idea is in general very bad, you get rid of it. Now, I am probably going to, at this point, trigger a debate between atheists and theists. Do what you want, guys. I don't care. Just be rational and respectful, and without fallacy in my comment section, please. So, I would have to say that ultimately, what we do with philosophy, we examine these beliefs, and we look at it from a standpoint of reason and wisdom. We're trying to extract the wisdom from these different beliefs, and from there, we also clear out these false beliefs to try to get a justified true belief, which I've talked about before on this channel, so I'm not going to talk about it again. But I will say that essentially that justified true belief is the beliefs that have been most likely seen as true, or not that they are the truth, but that they're, in a sense, what you can best conceive at the time with your knowledge, which is okay. You don't have to know everything. So essentially, if we were to take the God debate, it's not really a debate on whether or not God exists, but whether or not you can justifiably say that God exists or not. Which is why a lot of times I think it's kind of stupid to have like scientific talks on whether or not God exists, because you can't really prove or disprove anything, but rather you should talk about epistemology. So as to say that, some people believe God exists, some people don't, but they both have rational reasons. So, and I probably triggered a bunch of people there, but so anyway, you take these beliefs, you organize it, you scramble it all into little sections, and think about it in such a way that you can conceive that philosophy will look at these systems of thought, and when you have these systems of thought in place, you think that, how do I know this? How do I know that? How does he know this? How does he know that? It's all about listening. You have to listen to it, and you have to use your mind to comprehend things. And from there, you reject what does not seem to be precise, or the least precise gets rejected. That's a big rule. But at the same time, when you reject these things, you have to really make sure that you can reject it, because in the end there are some questions that will be debated for a long time. One of them will be whether or not God exists. Now, on faith, the big problem with that question is that there's really no way of seeing things, and so a lot of times the empirical types or the materialist types, they will reject the whole entire notion of faith, because if we take the classical Christian definition, that is the knowledge of things unseen, well, there's not really much way to get that knowledge from those systems. And so a lot of times faith comes from more of an idealist stance. And so you have like these forms. In the ideal world, the material world, you have all these things interacting together. Then you look at things from poetically as well, and you can come at something through faith, and that's right in my video. So guys, if you like this video, like, comment, subscribe. Have a good night or day, and remember to think about things.